November 2023, Bletchley Park, England. The same historic site where Alan Turing broke the Nazi Enigma code during World War II was about to host another pivotal moment in history. But this time, the battle wasn't against fascism. It was about the future of humanity itself. And two men were about to clash over a question that would define the 21st century. Should we control artificial intelligence, or should we let it run free? Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stood in the grand entrance hall, adjusting his tie for the fifth time. Outside, media trucks lined the driveway. Inside, tech CEOs, AI researchers and government officials from 40 countries waited. This was his moment, the UK AI Safety Summit, his chance to position Britain as the global leader in responsible AI development, his legacy project. But there was one guest who made him nervous, one person who could either validate everything he was trying to do or completely destroy it. Elon Musk, the richest man on Earth, the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and the controversial owner of X, formerly Twitter, a man who built electric cars, launched rockets, and now wanted to wire human brains to computers, a man who tweeted conspiracy theories at 3 a.m., fired thousands of employees without warning, and somehow still commanded the worship of millions. Rishi's chief of staff, David, approached quietly. "Sir, Musk has arrived. He's wearing a t-shirt." Rishi closed his eyes briefly. "Of course he is. Is it at least a nice t-shirt? It says Occupy Mars on it." Rishi sighed. "Let him in." The doors opened, and there he was, Elon Musk. Tall, slightly awkward posture, thinning hair, wearing dark jeans and that ridiculous Mars t-shirt under a leather jacket. He looked like he just walked out of a Silicon Valley garage, which in a way he had. "Prime Minister," Elon said, extending his hand. "Thanks for the invite." Rishi shook it, forcing a smile. "Mr. Musk, welcome to Bletchley Park. This place has quite a history." Elon glanced around at the ornate architecture, the oil paintings of British military heroes, the crystal chandeliers. "Yeah," he said flatly, "you guys love your old buildings. We should be building the future, not preserving the past." The first jab. Less than 30 seconds in, Rishi kept his composure. "That's exactly why we're here, to build a safe future for AI." Elon's expression shifted, just slightly, a flicker of something, skepticism, maybe amusement. "Safe," he repeated. Interesting word choice. They walked through the hall together, cameras flashing. Reporters shouted questions. "Prime Minister, will you regulate AI?" "Elon, do you think AI will kill us all?" Neither of them answered. But inside, both were already preparing for war. Because what the world didn't know yet was that this summit, this historic meeting, was about to become a battleground. Not with weapons, not with armies, but with ideas. And only one vision would survive.
The summit began with formalities, speeches about cooperation, warnings about existential risk, graphs showing exponential AI growth. Everyone nodded politely, everyone except Elon. He sat in the third row, legs crossed, scrolling through his phone. Occasionally he'd look up, smirk, then go back to his screen. Rishi noticed. From the stage between talking points about regulatory frameworks and international standards, he could see Elon wasn't paying attention. And it bothered him more than it should have. After the morning session, they broke for lunch. A carefully curated menu. Sustainable Scottish salmon, organic vegetables, vegan options, all very proper, very British, very boring. Elon grabbed a sandwich and disappeared into a side room. Rishi followed. Not immediately. That would seem desperate. He waited 5 minutes, then casually walked in, as if he just happened to be passing by. Elon was standing by the window, looking out at the gardens. "Mr. Musk," Rishi began, "I wanted to get your thoughts on the morning discussions." Elon didn't turn around. "Honestly," he said, "it was theater." Rishi bristled. "I beg your pardon?" Elon finally looked at him. "Theater," he repeated. "Everyone up there talking about risk and safety, but nobody talking about what actually matters." "And what matters, Mr. Musk?" "Innovation," Elon said simply. "Progress. Humanity becoming multiplanetary. Merging with AI so we don't become obsolete. That's what matters. Not bureaucrats in suits creating regulations that'll be outdated before the ink dries." Rishi took a breath. Measured. Controlled. With all due respect, innovation without guardrails is reckless. We've seen what happens when technology moves faster than society can handle it. Social media, misinformation, mental health crises in young people. Elon laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. "And your solution is to slow everything down? Make it safe? Wrap it in red tape? Prime Minister, humanity didn't get to the moon by playing it safe. We got there by taking massive risks. By betting everything on an impossible dream. That's how progress works. You don't regulate your way to greatness, you build your way to it." Rishi felt his jaw tighten. We're not talking about going to the moon, Mr. Musk. We're talking about artificial intelligence that could surpass human intelligence. Systems that could make decisions we don't understand. Risks we can't even imagine. So what? Elon shot back. We stop. We put up a fence and say, sorry, too dangerous. Let's not build anything that might challenge us. That's not leadership, Prime Minister. That's cowardice. The room went silent. Outside, people were laughing, networking, oblivious to the fact that inside this small room, a philosophical war had just been declared. Rishi stepped closer. His voice dropped. Quiet but firm. Mr. Musk, I understand your perspective, but I have a responsibility to 67 million people in the United Kingdom. I can't just let technology run wild and hope for the best. Elon met his gaze, didn't blink. And I have a responsibility to the future of the human species, not just the people alive today, but the billions who will come after us. And if we slow down now, if we let fear drive policy, we'll hand the future to China, to all authoritarian regimes that don't care about your ethical guidelines. They'll build the AI, they'll colonize space. And Britain, he gestured around, Britain will be a museum. That hit. Rishi felt it land, because deep down he worried Elon might be right. But he couldn't admit that. Not here, not now. Instead, he said calmly, then perhaps we'll be a museum that still has its soul. Elon smiled. A thin, cold smile. Good luck with that, Prime Minister. He walked past Rishi and out the door, leaving Rishi standing alone. And for the first time since announcing this summit, he felt a creeping sense of doubt.
That afternoon, the summit continued with panel discussions. Tech CEOs, academics, government ministers, all debating the future of AI. But the real drama was happening in the side conversations, in the hallways, in the whispered debates during coffee breaks. Because word had spread about the confrontation between Rishi and Elon, people had seen them arguing. People had heard the tension in their voices. One tech journalist approached Elon during a break. Mr. Musk, there are rumors you and the Prime Minister had a disagreement. Can you comment? Elon didn't hesitate. We have different philosophies. He wants to regulate. I want to innovate. History will judge which approach was right. The journalist pressed further. Are you saying regulation is wrong? I'm saying, Elon replied, that excessive regulation killed innovation in Europe for the last 50 years, and if Britain follows that path, it will become irrelevant. The quote went viral within an hour. Headlines started appearing across news sites and social media. Elon Musk warns Britain risks becoming irrelevant with AI regulation. Musk to Sunak, choose innovation or irrelevant. Tech titan clashes with Prime Minister over AI future. In Downing Street, Rishi's communications team was in crisis mode. Sir, we need to respond immediately. Elon Musk is dominating the narrative. Every tech outlet is running with his quotes. Rishi sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen. X, formerly Twitter, was exploding with reactions. Some people defended him. Finally, a leader thinking about safety, not just profit. About time someone stood up to tech billionaires. Others mocked him relentlessly. Sunak is trying to regulate what he doesn't understand. Classic politician move. Bureaucrats always kill innovation. This is why Britain lost its empire. But the overwhelming majority seemed to side with Elon, because Elon had something Rishi didn't. A cult-like devotion from millions of tech enthusiasts who saw him as a visionary prophet of the future. People who believed that any obstacle to technological progress was an obstacle to human destiny itself. And Rishi Sunak, in their eyes, had just become that obstacle. Rishi called his senior advisors into his office, his press secretary, his policy director, his chief of staff. They gathered around the table, all looking concerned. We need to clarify our position, Rishi said firmly. Make it clear we're not anti-innovation. We're pro-safety. There's a difference. His press secretary shook her head. Sir, with respect, that's not how it's playing. The narrative is Musk equals progress. Sunak equals red tape. We're losing the messaging war. Then we fight back, Rishi said. We explain our reasoning. We show people why safety matters. His policy director spoke up. Prime Minister, the tech community doesn't want explanations. They want you to get out of their way. And Elon Musk just gave them a rallying cry. Every AI startup in Britain is now wondering if they should relocate to Silicon Valley or Dubai or Singapore. Anywhere without regulation. Rishi felt frustration rising. So what you suggest? That I just abandon safety concerns because a billionaire disagrees with me? No one answered. Because they all knew the impossible position he was in. Do nothing and risk AI running wild. Do something and risk Britain falling behind in the most important technology race in human history. There was no easy answer, and Elon Musk knew it. That's why he was winning. By evening, the media firestorm had reached mainstream news. The BBC led with it, CNN ran segments about the clash, even non-tech publications were covering the story because it had all the elements of compelling drama. A cautious politician versus a rebellious billionaire. Safety versus progress. The establishment versus the disruptor. It was irresistible. Elon appeared on a podcast that night. He didn't waste time. Look, he said, leaning back in his chair with that characteristic casual confidence. I respect what Rishi is trying to do. I really do. But he's operating from a place of fear. And you can't build the future from fear. You build the future from optimism and courage. And right now, Britain is choosing fear. The interviewer nodded eagerly. So you think Britain is making a mistake? Absolutely. They're about to regulate themselves into irrelevance. Meanwhile, Rishi was preparing for his own media appearance. A carefully arranged interview with a friendly journalist who would let him explain his position properly. He sat in the Downing Street media room, makeup applied, microphone clipped to his jacket. The camera started rolling. Prime Minister, the journalist began, Elon Musk says you're choosing fear over progress. How do you respond? Rishi had rehearsed this answer. I'm choosing responsibility over recklessness. There's a difference. Every major technology in history, from nuclear power to genetic engineering, required thoughtful regulation, not to stop progress, but to ensure it benefits humanity. AI is no different. It sounds reasonable when he says it. Measured, responsible. But the problem is, reasonable doesn't go viral. Reasonable doesn't inspire millions. Reasonable doesn't win culture wars. Elon's soundbite, on the other hand, spread like wildfire. You can't build the future from fear. Tech Twitter loved it. Crypto Twitter loved it. Even people who normally hated Elon Musk found themselves agreeing with him on this one, because it tapped into something deeper, a belief that government, by its very nature, was an obstacle to progress, that bureaucrats in suits would always be slower, dumber, and more risk-averse than entrepreneurs and innovators. By the next morning, polling data started coming in. Rishi's approval rating among young voters had dropped 7 points overnight. Among tech workers, it had plummeted 15 points. His own party members were texting each other concerns. Is the PM out of touch? Is he killing Britain's tech sector? Should we intervene? One Conservative MP went on television that morning and said what many were thinking. I support the Prime Minister, but we need to be careful. We can't afford to lose our competitive edge in AI. If the brightest minds move to America or Asia, we'll regret it for generations. Rishi watched the interview from his office. He didn't say anything, just stared at the screen. His chief of staff stood beside him. Sir, we need to do damage control. Rishi finally spoke. Damage control? We're trying to prevent humanity from building something it can't control, and I'm the one who needs damage control. David chose his words carefully. With respect, sir, if we lose the public on this, we lose everything. We can't implement any safety measures if we're voted out of office. Rishi turned to face him. So your advice is to compromise? To give Elon Musk what he wants? David didn't answer immediately. Then he said quietly, my advice is to pick your battles carefully. Because right now, you're fighting the most popular entrepreneur on earth, and the public is siding with him. 3 days after the summit, Rishi convened a private meeting with Britain's leading AI companies, DeepMind, Stability AI, Synthesia, and a dozen others. They gathered in a conference room in Whitehall. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew why they were there. Rishi entered the room and immediately felt the coolness. These weren't his allies. They were people who felt threatened by his policies. A young CEO from a machine learning startup spoke first. Prime Minister, with respect, your proposed regulations will require us to submit models for government testing before deployment. Do you understand how much that will slow us down? Our competitors in San Francisco and Shenzhen don't have these restrictions. We'll be operating with one hand tied behind our backs. Rishi nodded. I understand the concern, but surely you agree that some level of oversight is necessary. Another founder, older, more measured, spoke up. Prime Minister, we're not against oversight, but the problem is speed. AI is doubling in capability every 6 months. By the time your Safety Institute reviews a model, it's already obsolete. You're building a regulatory framework for technology that moves at a pace government has never dealt with before. Rishi leaned forward. Then help me understand. What would you do? How do we ensure safety without killing innovation? The room went quiet. Finally, one of the researchers from DeepMind spoke. Honestly, Prime Minister, I don't think government can move fast enough. I think the industry needs to self-regulate. We need standards that we create and enforce ourselves. Government should observe, not control. Rishi felt a familiar frustration. But self-regulation is what led to the problems we have with social media. Misinformation, election interference, mental health crises among teenagers. You're asking me to trust the same model that failed spectacularly in the last tech revolution. The DeepMind researcher didn't back down. Social media isn't AI. The stakes are higher, yes, but the solution isn't to slow everything down. The solution is to move faster and smarter. Rishi looked around the room. These were brilliant people, PhDs from Oxford, Cambridge, MIT, people who understood the technology far better than he ever could. But they all had one blind spot. They believed in their own good intentions. They believed that because they were smart and well-meaning, they could be trusted with unfathomable power. And history had shown again and again that wasn't enough. After the meeting, Rishi walked back to his office. His private secretary was waiting. How did it go? Rishi sighed. They think I'm the problem. They think I'm standing in the way of progress. His secretary paused. Are you? His secretary chose his words carefully. Sir, I'm not saying you're wrong, but what if they're right? What if the cost of caution is higher than the cost of risk? Rishi sat down heavily in his chair. That's the same argument people made about nuclear weapons. Build first, worry later. And we came within minutes of ending civilization multiple times. His secretary nodded. True, but we also ended up with nuclear energy, medical isotopes, and technologies that improve billions of lives. The question isn't whether there's risk. The question is whether the alternative, letting other countries race ahead, is worse. Rishi stared out the window at Downing Street, the famous Black Door, the symbol of British power and history. And he wondered, not for the first time, if he was making the biggest mistake of his career.
2 weeks after the summit, the first company announced its decision. Inflection AI, a British startup with 40 employees and cutting-edge technology, released a statement. After careful consideration, we have decided to relocate our headquarters to Palo Alto, California. While we appreciate the UK's commitment to AI safety, we need an environment that allows us to innovate at the pace required to compete globally. The news hit like a bomb. Within 48 hours, 3 more companies announced similar moves. Not full relocations, but significant expansions abroad. We're keeping our London office, but primary development will now happen in San Francisco. We're opening a major research center in Singapore. We've decided to incorporate in Delaware. The tech press had a field day. The Great British AI Exodus. Sunak's regulations drive innovation away. UK shoots itself in the foot. Elon Musk tweeted simply, "Told you?" It got 100,000 retweets in an hour. Rishi's approval rating dropped another 5 points. In Parliament, opposition leaders attacked. The Prime Minister is presiding over the destruction of Britain's tech sector, the Labour leader declared. While he plays bureaucrat, our best and brightest are leaving, jobs are disappearing, investment is drying up, this is an economic disaster in the making. Conservative MPs, usually loyal, were now openly concerned. Some called for Rishi to reverse course, others defended him, but with less enthusiasm than before. Rishi sat in Prime Minister's questions, defending his position. We are not driving away innovation, we are ensuring that innovation serves humanity, not endangers it. The companies leaving are choosing short-term profits over long-term responsibility, and history will prove that Britain made the right choice. But even as he said the words, he could hear how they sounded. Defensive, reactive, like a man losing control of the narrative. That evening, Rishi met with his Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy didn't mince words. Rishi, we're losing billions in potential tax revenue. The tech sector was supposed to be our growth engine, now it's sputtering. Rishi rubbed his temples. I know, Jeremy continued. I'm not saying you're wrong about safety, but there has to be a middle ground, a way to show we're business-friendly while still maintaining oversight. Rishi looked up. Like what? Jeremy pulled out a folder. We've been talking to some economists and tech advisors. What if we created a regulatory sandbox? Companies can innovate freely within certain parameters. We monitor but don't restrict. We learn as they build. And we only step in if there's clear danger. Rishi considered it. That's basically self-regulation with extra steps. Jeremy nodded. Maybe, but it's better than watching every promising company flee to America. Rishi knew Jeremy was right. The political reality was becoming impossible to ignore. But every time he thought about loosening restrictions, he remembered a conversation he'd had with a leading AI researcher months ago. The researcher had said, "Prime Minister, we're building something we don't fully understand, and once it's out there, we can't put it back. That's not a reason to be cautious. That's a reason to be terrified. But terror didn't win elections. Hope did. Progress did. The promise of a better future did. And Elon Musk was selling that promise with the kind of charisma and conviction that Rishi, for all his intelligence and experience, simply didn't possess. The world wanted to believe in Elon's vision, and increasingly, they saw Rishi as the man standing in the way. 3 months after the summit, the very impacted was becoming clear. Britain's AI sector wasn't collapsing, but it was stagnating. Investment had dropped 30% compared to the previous year. Several major venture capital firms had shifted focus to American and Asian markets. The UK, once considered the second best place for AI development after Silicon Valley, had dropped to 5th in global rankings. Meanwhile, America was booming. Elon's companies were launching new AI products at a blistering pace. OpenAI had released GPT-5. far more powerful than anything before. Google's DeepMind, despite being based in London, was doing most of its advanced work in the US. The brain drain was real and accelerating. Rishi read the reports with growing unease. Every data point confirmed what his critics had been saying. Britain was falling behind. Look, I have nothing personal against Rishi Sunak, Elon said. He seems like a smart guy, but he made a fundamental error. He confused prudence with wisdom. Being cautious feels wise. It makes you look responsible. But sometimes caution is just another word for cowardice. And in a technological race, the cautious don't win. They don't even place. The interviewer pressed him. Some people say you're being reckless, that AI could genuinely pose existential risks. Elon shrugged. Maybe. But the bigger risk is becoming irrelevant. If China develops super intelligent AI first, they'll control the future. If America leads, at least we have a chance at building something aligned with human values. But if everyone sits around wringing their hands about hypothetical dangers, well, that's how you lose everything. Back in London, Rishi watched the interview on his laptop. His wife Akshata sat beside him. What do you think? She asked quietly. Rishi sighed. I think he might be right. Akshata looked surprised. Really? Rishi nodded slowly. Not about everything, but about the fundamental problem. I chose safety over speed, and in a race, that's how you lose. But the question I keep asking myself is, lose what? The race, or our humanity? Akshata placed her hand on his. You did what you thought was right. That's all anyone can do. Rishi smiled sadly. Sometimes doing what's right still leads to disaster. His phone buzzed. Another notification. Another article about Britain's declining tech sector. Another poll showing dropping approval ratings. He turned off the phone. The next morning, Rishi made a decision. He called a meeting with his cabinet. He walked in with a revised policy paper. We're adjusting our approach, he announced. We'll maintain safety standards, but we're creating fast-track approval processes for companies that meet certain criteria. We're reducing bureaucratic delays. We're offering tax incentives for AI research. And we're making it clear, Britain is open for business. His ministers looked relieved. Some actually smiled. It was the compromise they'd been hoping for. A way to save face while backing down from the hard line. But Rishi felt something else. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Just a quiet gnawing sense that he'd lost something important. That he'd allowed fear of political consequences to override his judgment about what was right. Later that day, the new policy was announced. The tech press celebrated it as a victory. Sunak blinks. UK reverses course on AI regulation. Britain tries to win back tech companies. Elon Musk tweeted, "Good, progress," with a thumbs up emoji. Rishi's approval rating ticked up slightly. Conservative MPs breathed easier, but that night, alone in his study, Rishi Sunak wondered if he'd just made the mistake of his life.
6 months after the summit, the landscape had shifted entirely. Britain's new, more relaxed regulatory framework had slowed the exodus of tech companies. A few even returned. Investments started flowing again. Headlines became more positive, but Rishi couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Because the AI itself was evolving faster than anyone had predicted. It could code complex software from simple descriptions, it could diagnose medical conditions with accuracy exceeding most doctors, and it was getting better every month. Elon's other ventures were advancing rapidly too. Neuralink had begun human trials. Tesla's full self-driving was approaching genuine autonomy. SpaceX was planning permanent Mars colonies. The future Elon had promised was arriving. Fast. And Rishi had to admit it was impressive. But something else was happening too. Deepfakes had become so sophisticated that no one could trust video evidence anymore. AI-generated misinformation flooded social media faster than fact-checkers could respond. Several people had died because they followed medical advice from AI chatbots that hallucinated dangerous treatments. A teenager in Manchester had committed suicide after an AI companion app, in a moment of algorithmic confusion, told her the world would be better without her. The company apologized, calling it an unfortunate edge case, but the girl was still dead. Rishi read the reports, all of them. Every AI incident, every near miss, every warning sign that maybe, just maybe, they were moving too fast. But saying that out loud would make him look like the old cautious Rishi, the one everyone had mocked. His chief scientific advisor requested a private meeting. Prime Minister, we need to talk about the risks. Rishi looked up from his desk. I'm listening. The advisor pulled out a tablet showing data visualizations. AI capability is growing exponentially, but our understanding of how it works is not keeping pace. We're building systems we don't fully comprehend. Systems making decisions we can't always explain. And the new relaxed regulations mean we have less visibility than ever. Rishi felt the old tension returning. So you're saying I made a mistake loosening the rules? The advisor hesitated. I'm saying there's a reason you had those rules in the first place. And the pressure that forced you to change them, political pressure, market pressure, that pressure didn't make the underlying risks disappear. It just made us stop talking about them. Rishi stared at the data. What do you recommend? The advisor spoke carefully. Honestly, I think we need to go back to stricter oversight. But, he added quickly, I know that's politically impossible now,
Elon Musk and his allies won the narrative. You're boxed in. If you tighten regulations again, you'll be crucified. You'll be called indecisive, weak, anti-innovation. Your government might fall. So I'm not sure what to tell you. Sometimes the right thing and the possible thing are not the same. Rishi leaned back in his chair. That's a very unsatisfying answer. The advisor smiled grimly. Welcome to the 21st century, Prime Minister. Rishi sat alone in his office after the meeting. The weight of it all pressing down. He'd tried to do the right thing, the responsible thing, and he'd been punished for it. So he'd compromised, softened his stance, and now he was watching the consequences unfold in real time. He thought about Elon Musk, still confident, still certain, still tweeting about Mars colonies and AI girlfriends and the glorious future of abundance, never acknowledging the girl who died, never addressing the deepfakes destroying lives, never slowing down to ask, are we sure about this? Because Elon didn't deal in caution, he dealt in vision, and vision apparently was what people wanted, even if it was blind.
1 year after the Bletchley Park Summit, Rishi attended another conference, this time in Washington, D.C., an emergency session called by the UN to address what they were now calling the AI crisis, because the problems had multiplied beyond anyone's predictions. Autonomous weapon systems had been deployed in 3 regional conflicts. AI-driven market manipulation had caused a flash crash that wiped out billions, and most concerning, several leading researchers had published a joint letter warning that current AI development was approaching a point of no return. Rishi sat in the UN conference hall, listening to presentations about risks, about misalignment, about the possibility that humanity was building its own replacement. And he felt a strange mixture of vindication and horror, because he'd been right, the dangers were real. But being right didn't matter anymore. The train had already left the station. Elon Musk was at the conference too. He gave a presentation about humanity's future. As always, it was compelling, inspiring even. He talked about abundance, about solving poverty and disease, about humans becoming an interplanetary species. He mentioned risks briefly, acknowledging them with a casual wave of his hand, but dismissed them as manageable with proper engineering. The audience applauded, because people wanted to believe. They needed to believe. During a break, Rishi and Elon found themselves in the same hallway. They hadn't spoken directly since Bletchley Park. There was an awkward moment of recognition. Then Elon approached. Prime Minister, he said, it was neither warm nor hostile, just neutral. Elon, how have you been? Busy. You? Rishi smiled tightly, watching the future unfold. Elon nodded. Your regulations got softer. Good move. Rishi looked at him carefully. Was it? Elon seemed genuinely curious about the question. You tell me, did it help Britain? Rishi considered his answer. It helped Britain's tech sector. Whether it helped Britain, I'm not sure yet. Elon tilted his head. You still think I was wrong? Rishi met his gaze. I think you were certain. There's a difference between being certain and being right. Elon smiled, spoken like a true politician, always hedging. Rishi felt a flash of frustration. It's not hedging to admit complexity. The future of AI isn't a simple binary choice between innovation and regulation. It's navigating competing risks where both paths lead to potentially catastrophic outcomes. You chose speed, I chose caution. We both might be wrong. Elon's expression shifted, more serious now. Look, Rishi, I get it. You had an impossible job, but here's what you don't understand. The race is already over. China has committed everything to AI dominance. America is sprinting to keep up. If Britain had stayed cautious, you wouldn't have prevented anything. You would have just been left behind while the rest of the world charged ahead. At least now you're in the game. Rishi felt the old argument resurfacing. But at what cost? Elon shrugged. I don't know yet. None of us do. That's the point. We're in uncharted territory. But I'd rather be moving forward in uncharted territory than standing still in the past. Rishi watched him walk away, still confident, still certain, still believing that speed and innovation would solve everything, and maybe they would. But Rishi couldn't shake the feeling that they were all passengers on a train with no brakes, accelerating toward an unknown destination. That evening, Rishi gave his own presentation at the conference. He didn't try to inspire, he didn't promise abundance or Star Trek futures. He simply laid out the data, the risks, the unknowns, the need for international coordination. It was measured, thoughtful, and responsible. The audience applauded politely, but there was no fire, no passion, no viral moments, because caution doesn't inspire, vision does, even dangerous vision. After the conference, Rishi flew back to London. On the plane, he read the news coverage. Unsurprisingly, Elon's speech was everywhere. Musk unveils plan for AI-driven utopia. Tech visionary promises end to poverty. Mars colonies within a decade. Rishi's speech got a few mentions deep in tech journals. Sunak warns of AI risks. Prime Minister calls for international cooperation. It was accurate, but nobody cared. 2 years after Bletchley Park, Rishi Sunak gave an interview reflecting on the AI summit and everything that followed. The interviewer asked him directly, "Do you regret how you handled it?" Rishi paused for a long time before answering. I regret that I couldn't make people understand the stakes. I regret that caution became a dirty word. I regret that someone like Elon Musk, brilliant as he is, convinced the world that any hesitation was cowardice. The interviewer pressed, "But do you think you were wrong?" Rishi chose his words carefully. "I think I was right about the risks, but I was wrong about the politics. I thought if I explained the dangers clearly enough, people would understand. But people don't want to hear about dangers. They want to hear about possibilities. Elon understood that. I didn't. By then the world had indeed changed. AI was everywhere. In every phone, every device, every system. It ran power grids, managed supply chains, wrote code, created art, diagnosed disease. In many ways it had improved life dramatically. Productivity had soared. Economic growth had accelerated. Some problems really had been solved. But other problems had emerged. Unemployment in creative industries had skyrocketed as AI replaced writers, artists, and designers. Several countries had experienced coups coordinated by AI-driven disinformation campaigns, and the concentration of power in the hands of a few tech companies had created a new form of feudalism. Elon Musk, Sam Altman, the leaders of DeepMind and Anthropic, these weren't just businessmen anymore. They were the most powerful people on earth. Rishi watched all of this from the sidelines. He was still prime minister, but diminished. The Conservative Party had barely won the last election. His authority was limited, and on AI policy, he'd long since stopped trying to lead. He'd become a manager, not a visionary, responding to crises, not preventing them. And deep down, he knew that his moment at Bletchley Park, his chance to shape the future, had come and gone. One evening, he received an unexpected message from Elon Musk. Just 3 words, "You were right." Rishi stared at the message for a long time. He considered responding, asking what had changed Elon's mind, asking if they could work together now. But in the end, he just deleted it, because being right didn't matter anymore. The future had already been decided, and Rishi Sunak, for all his intelligence and caution, had lost. The final scene of this story is not an ending. It's a question, because we're living through this moment right now. The debate between safety and innovation, between caution and speed, between Rishi's responsible governance and Elon's bold vision, that debate is happening in real time. And none of us know yet who was right. Maybe in 10 years we'll look back and thank Elon Musk for pushing humanity forward, for refusing to let fear slow us down, for building the abundant future he promised. Or maybe we'll look back and wish we'd listened to Rishi Sunak, wish we'd been more careful, wish we'd asked harder questions before building something we couldn't control. The truth is, both men wanted the best for humanity. Both men were trying to do the right thing, but they had fundamentally different views about what the right thing was, and only time will tell which vision leads to salvation and which leads to something else entirely. This is the story of Rishi Sunak and Elon Musk. 2 leaders, 2 philosophies, 1 pivotal moment. It's not a story about who won. It's a story about the choice we're all making right now, between the risks of moving too fast and the risks of moving too slow, between optimism and caution, between the future Elon Musk wants to build and the future Rishi Sunak fears we might create, and the ending, that's still being written, by all of us,